going to get to the nitty-gritty of infinite limits, which is what to do when you're dealing with a vertical asymptote. All right, so here we go. I'm going to take a look at a limit as x approaches 0, and this is a one-sided limit of 3 over x. Now, if we plug in 0 for x, you're going to get 3 over 0, and that limit is undefined. Now, we're going to be more specific, however. We're going to talk about what kind of undefined we're dealing with. If you have not 0 over 0, this is most definitely, I promise you, a vertical asymptote. That means that your graph has a point where it's either going to go straight up or straight down. What we're going to have to do is figure out whether it's going up or down. So in other words, right here at 0, my graph is either going to be going straight up or straight down as we're approaching 0 from the left. I have to figure out what to do. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to plug in a number close to 0 from the left. Now, a number close to 0 from the left is like negative 0.1. And I'm going to plug it in to figure out where the graph is heading. Well, 3 divided by negative 0.1 is a negative huge number, because 3 divided by 0.1 is actually 3 divided by 0.1 is actually 3 times 10 over 1, because that's 0.1 is 1/10. You flip it over and multiply, and we're at negative 30. That means that negative 0.1 we're way down here at negative 30. So I know for a fact that as my graph is approaching my vertical asymptote, it just goes, whoo, falls down. You need some scuba diving gear, bro. So anyway, dealing with the vertical asymptote, because when we plugged in 0, it was not 0 over 0. What we're going to do now, however, is tell whether or not the answer is negative infinity or positive infinity. And the way we figure that out is you plug a number in that's really close to our limit from the indicated direction. And so that one's negative infinity. Let's see another example. If I plug in 0 to x squared, I get negative 5 over 0, and it's, hey, looky there, we're dealing with a vertical asymptote. So as we approach 0, this graph is either going straight up or straight down. What we need to figure out is whether it's going straight down or straight up. So what we do is we pick a number really close to 0, and in this example, it's from the right. So I'm going to pick a number like x equals 0.1, and I'm going to plug it in. If I plug in 0.1, which by the way is just a little bit to the right of 0, which is 1/10, and I square it, I'm going to get negative 5 over 1/100, which is negative 500. I got a negative huge number. That means the graph is heading towards negative infinity. Let's do another example. What about as x approaching 1 from the right? Well, what's happening at 1? If I plug in 1 for x, I get 1 over 0, which means we know we're dealing with a vertical asymptote, which means we're either going to answer negative infinity or positive infinity. It's going to be one of those two answers. That's every time you get not 0 over 0 from a one-sided limit. That's going to be your only two choices. 50-50 shot if you just learned anything right there. So I'm going to pick a number a little bit bigger than 1, like 1.1. And if I plug in 1.1, I get 1 over 0.1, which is 1 divided by 1/10, which is 10. So I know the graph was heading up. At 1.1, it's going up to 10. So that means the graph was heading up towards positive infinity. This is actually rather easy. Let's take a look at one more example. What about an x is approaching 3 from the right? Well, let's make sure we're dealing with a vertical asymptote first. If we plug in 3, we're going to get 3 divided by 5 times 0, which is 3 divided by 0, which is, hey, that's a vertical asymptote guaranteed. The graph either is going straight up or straight down as we approach 3. We're approaching 3 from the right, so let's pick a number close to 3 from the right. How about x equals 3.1? So I'll put 3.1 in top, and I'll put 3.1 in bottom. And all I really need to know is if this is a positive number or a negative number. So that's 3.1 over 5.1 times 0.1, which is going to be positive. I get a positive number on top and a positive number on bottom. And so we are going to get a positive answer, which means me go ahead and write that down, that our graph was heading towards positive infinity. Now you can actually work it out and figure out what the actual number is, but that doesn't matter. We just need to know the direction. Is the graph going up or down? Because we know it's a vertical asymptote. And if I plug in a number close to this number right here, if it's positive, it's going up, and if the answer is negative, it's going down. So this answer would be positive infinity. Deuces.